All right, so today I'm going to go ahead and take myself off video shortly just so that I have a great internet connection. And today we'll be talking about protecting yourself, really just about a lot of different types of insurances and things that come up, identity theft. So I hope that you can sit back and enjoy yourself. And as Harmony mentioned, please put any questions that you have and we'll address that at the end. All right. So here we go. Protecting yourself. Get set to own your own financial future. Oh, so sorry. All right. What does it mean to protect yourself? So that's a really great question. What are some ways to protect yourself financially? This is always a really great one for most of you. If you are a true Oregonian, the umbrella is really great because that protects us from the rain. I am a true Oregonian and I don't even carry an umbrella anymore. Why are we here today? Have you or someone you know been a victim of fraud? That's the question. So I'm going to share my own personal experience. I have had two occasions. I would say that my first one was in my 20s. I had moved to Southern California. I was working two jobs. I was young. So I think at that time I might have had about 3 credit cards. And one credit card that I used often was my American Express. And at that time, your American Express, you needed to pay off the balance every single month. So I typically would use that for gas. And I remember I was at work one day and I had a call from American Express and they were, "Hi, Miss Williams." They identified themselves and very calmly, they were like, "We just wanted to follow up with you and check in. We've noticed that your charges are about $10,000 and that hasn't been the normal pattern." And I remember, like it was yesterday, I started laughing and I told them, "I'm pretty sure you have the wrong Lori Williams." And, being very naive and never experiencing anything with identity theft, they said, they verified my address. And again, they have my phone number. And then the next thing you know, I went into a panic. I started crying a little bit because I had never encountered this. I'd never heard of this. And I was scared half to death that I was going to be responsible. I was working 2 jobs in Southern California. So, and again, that has stayed with me forever. The great news was, and at that time, they would take our credit card, put it on a little machine, and then scan it with a little piece of paper. And I really, like I stated a little bit earlier, I really only used it to get gas. And what was really nice is about 3 weeks later, they called me. And again, this was a credit card. So I just want to kind of share with you, if you haven't encountered this, if it does come up, how they handled this is they had the conversation with me, and then they were able to start looking and investigating into this. And then they were able to come back to me and say, "You are not liable for these charges. We'll send you a new card. We can see that based off our investigation, this was not you." So that was, I had no idea how this went. So in many cases, if it is a credit card, which is very different than your debit card, this is how it will go. If someone ends up with your credit card and there's some fraud, they will do an investigation. The difference between your credit card and your debit card is attached to typically your checking and savings. So if someone gets your debit card, they're able to access your cash just like that. So at least with credit, you have a little bit of leniency. So I just want to share that story. My next story would be, I had taken some vacation time with 2 of my daughters. We had gone to Southern California for a softball tournament. Then we flew home and we flew home. We drove to Eastern Oregon to have our yearly vacation. And I was coming home and I remember, again, because you usually don't forget these things. This was probably about 6 years ago. I was coming home, stopped off in Hood River at the Starbucks, And for some reason, it was a Sunday, I just decided to check my email and my phone. And I had an alert from one of my credit bureaus. It was TransUnion that had sent me an email and just said, we see that there's been some activity. Is this inquiry from you? And an inquiry is when you have applied for credit. That shows up on your credit report as an inquiry, but what was really nice is TransUnion sent me this email because I had this set up. And I was able to call them immediately on a Sunday and let them know. I could actually see, I had a couple emails. There was 3 or 4 different accounts that someone had tried to open up. So I was able to call them. I was also able to see where the inquiries were, and there was a phone number. And what had happened, and is very common, is somehow people get your personal information. Someone somehow had my social security number, they had my address, and they had my date of birth, as well as my name. They went online, they applied for 4 credit cards. One, thank goodness, was a Walmart card, and I already had a Walmart card, so that was denied for them. But the other 3, because I had that email sent to me so quickly and I was able to call them because I had checked my email, they were able to shut those credit cards down. And what happens is, you know, thieves have gotten so smart. When you apply for something online, they used to go ahead and give you your account number right there so that you could make charges. And then it usually would take about 10 to 14 business days before you got your credit card in the mail. If you get that credit card in the mail 10 to 14 days and you didn't request it and someone's already charged it up, that's where the problem is. So that's why I had alerts from my credit bureaus. And I hope that some of you will take that away from this. It really saved me. Otherwise, I would have got notices about 10, 14 days in the mail with a credit card. And then I would have had to call and say, I didn't apply for this. And someone would have already spent that money. And that's what they said to me. The companies where these credit cards were applied is that they said that they'll go online and then they'll charge like Apple products, really expensive products. And then by the time they get that, they can turn around and sell it. So there's just a little bit of my story with some fraud. And the feeling is just, you really do feel like a victim. And I think that's why that's such a great word, victim of fraud. All right, so identity theft, dumpster diving, skimming, changing your address, old-fashioned stealing, and pretexting. These are all different ways that people get your information. I think that for the most part on dumpster diving, we have come a long way. That really used to be the most popular way because for many of us, we would take our paper statements that we had from the mail and just put them in the garbage. So people would go through the garbages and they would find all the account information that they needed. Skimming is something that when you go to an ATM machine, automated teller machine, and you want to go pull out some cash, if you're using your debit card and you insert it, if you can feel that it's just not going in as smooth or it's coming out not as smooth, there could be a possibility of a little device, and they call it skimming. Again, these thieves, they have attached things to the ATMs where it's able to access all of your credit card information by the skimming machine. And just so you know, when that happens, when this happens to a credit union or a bank, any financial institution, they have to typically go in and put in a new system. And those new systems can cost up to $10,000. So that is how the skimming affects not just the person that's having their identity stolen from the skimming, but how it really affects the financial institutions and all of us that belong to the financial institutions. Changing your address, this is a big one. So I'll share with you, when you go in and you open a new account, to whether it's savings, whether it's checking, your address is a really important aspect. And part of the ID is having you bring in something that shows your current address and that matches your driver's license. Well, the reason is because it's really easy if someone goes through your garbage and they get your information and they just put in a change of address. I worked with a gal one time. We both worked for a financial institution, and they were able to get her information and get into her banking account, and they think it's because she had so much personal information on a social media. So be careful about what you put on your social media as well. All right, old-fashioned stealing. That's when someone's going to grab your wallet, or if you're not paying attention to your purse. Later on, we're going to have a slide that really brings something up. In the old-fashioned stealing, something really important, make sure that you don't have your Social Security card in your wallet. If you can find a place in your car where you can take your Social Security numbers and write them down, but not in a clear way, keep them somewhere in your car. And again, not in a clear way that that's your Social Security number, or in your phone. What's really, really great, this is if you have your password set up and you have great security, is one thing that's really nice in your phone is there is an app for notes. And that's something where you can, in your own discreet way, put your Social Security number in there so that if you need to have that number on an ongoing basis. All right, we're going to go to the next slide. All right, don't be a victim. All right, so here's some ways that you can protect yourself. First one, shred it. This is where the dumpster diving was so popular. Businesses, we all shred it. That's where, when there's great organizations that have shred days that pay for these companies, and you can go through drive-thrus. We've done these a couple times at our Mill Plain branch out in Vancouver, and it was always really fun. We'd have people come through with boxes of paperwork, and we'd have a shredder there. So they shred all of it, they secure it, and then they take it and dispose of it. So shred it. Don't give out account information, including your passwords and PINs. This is really important. If you are verbally giving a loved one your password and PIN, you do not know who is paying attention. You know, we can all hear other people's conversations, and you want to make sure that you're not tempting someone to go use that. You will be responsible if you have provided that person your password and PIN. One thing I want to go back to on that shred it. Shred it is one way, but for some of you, you might have the luxury where you can burn it, throw it in your fireplace. That's always a good one. That's always an option too. All right, report fraud immediately. If you are aware that you have any fraud, call your credit card, your financial institution immediately. You really want to get on that. And there's two things. You want to report it. You want to make sure that you fill out a police report, and you want to make sure that they go ahead and start that investigation, because again, they will be investigating. So it is really important for you to contact them. And if it's a credit card or your financial institution, they want to make sure that there's not more charges on there. Oftentimes, if they're unable to get these products back, or the thief that charged it, we all pay for that. Product has been purchased, stolen, and we all pay for that as consumers. Here is where it says, don't carry your Social Security card. If you carry your Social Security card in your wallet and you have your identification in your wallet, your identification has your address, your date of birth, and then all someone needs is their Social Security card, and they can go to the clearest computer and start applying for credit. So make sure that you protect yourself and you don't carry your Social Security card on you. That's really, really important. Watch accounts for irregularities. So this is really important. I have two daughters, and a conversation that I realized that I needed to start having with them as well as when we go out to the high schools, they check their account just about daily. So this was really great for me. I used to not check my account, daily, but I have a mobile phone. I check it here and there. But they didn't really go at the end of each month and then just kind of look at their statement so they could review it. And this is where the conversation that we came in was, you need to make sure that you're looking at your monthly statements. And for our credit union, for myself, for my daughters, we typically log in. We're huge online banking, and we go right into our e-statements. And then that gives you a reflection so you can look at the last 30 days. And really, this was something I had to sit down with both my girls so that they could understand they needed to pay attention to this carefully, just to make sure that they didn't see anything, because this is, again, how these thieves work. When you hear there are companies out there that have had break-ins where, any of us that have been shopping, let's just say Target, this was really unfortunate for them. Someone was able to hack in, and if you had shopped at Target in a certain amount of time, more than likely your information was taken. That's what these thieves were able to do. So I had to explain to my daughters, if you go use your debit card and this happened to you, what they do is they'll go charge something very minimal, maybe $1.98, $1.97, something that you wouldn't catch, and they'll do it a couple times so that they can see that you're not catching it, and then they can monitor your account so that when you have a paycheck, next thing you know, they can take it all out. So that's why you really just want to make sure that you do go and you review your previous month statement, just so you can make sure that everything looks aligned. All right, we're going to go to the next slide. Be prepared. What to do if it happens to you. Notify the company as soon as you discover the fraud. Freeze your bank accounts. Obtain a free credit report to see if there are any additional issues. File a police report if requested by the company. This is really important. I would say, honestly, you really want to obtain a free credit report, and you have to make sure you get that police report in. And here's a couple reasons why. When you notify the company as soon as you discover the fraud, you are trying to eliminate any more charges for you and any more charges for the credit card company. The reason that you want to make sure that you file a police report is because in the situation that I shared earlier, if I did not know that someone was able to open up 3 credit cards in my name until I received those in the mail, that means that because I didn't, those were fraudulent, I'm going to file a police report, but they're still going to report on my credit report until I can get this all cleared up. Even though these were not my accounts, let's just say the thief was able to open those credit cards. It takes a long time when someone is able to get credit cards in your name. It takes quite a few months. Typically, it can take up to a year. And what happens is, if they opened up these 3 credit cards and you're not making payments on the credit cards and there's an investigation, you want to make sure that you have to provide a copy of your police report. That helps their investigation. But that police report is also going to help you, because you're going to have to send the police report to all the 3 credit bureaus. And our credit scores are really important. This is, again, it really affects, as an individual, it affects families. If you're someone that has worked really hard to maintain any credit that you have used and you don't live among your needs, and then someone's able to get into your account and commit this fraud, it will take your credit scores and really reduce them. And if you need to get a loan during that time, they're going to go off those credit scores. And that's where, if you have a police report and you have other paperwork, they may make a decision for you, especially if you have a great relationship with the financial institution, to say, okay, I see that your previous patterns, you never had any issues making your payment. You've been a great relationship with us. And we can see that this is an isolated incident. So this is where this is really going to come in handy. And again, it really affects you long term. The next thing is you want to make sure that you're checking your credit, because your social security number isn't going to change. Your name's not going to change. And if you stay in the same home for the next 15 years, that means they have all of your information and that they can come back at a later date and try to establish credit in your name again. Report fraud to the Federal Trade Commission. So this is really important. Set up a fraud alert on your credit report. Huge. This is where you would want to reach out to TransUnion, Equifax. There are 3, but you want to set up these fraud alerts. And what happens is when you go to apply for new credit, you'll get an alert, and you will have to verify with them that that was you. You'll go through a process to protect yourself. And it's not necessarily convenient, but it's to protect you. It takes so long to get your credit fixed when this happens. If you are really concerned about future fraud, you can put a freeze on your credit card. And that would be where you can put freezes on your credit card, and then you can open up. What's really great is for a lot of financial institutions now, we have credit card guards. That's really valuable. Something else that I would swear by and that I have myself, check with your financial institution. For me, for my mobile phone, I have set up notifications. So I went into my settings and I went specifically into my mobile notifications to make sure that I could send alerts via text. And I set them up so weekly I know what my balance is. I set up alerts so that if my account goes below $50, there's an alert. If there's a purchase over $250, I have an alert. That's so that I am alerted of what's going on. I want to take extra steps for these thieves. And that's something that I had to share with my girls as well. I have 2 daughters, they're 19 and 20, and we just had this conversation. They're just establishing credit and they're understanding a little bit more now that they've paid interest. And when they need a car loan, how important it is and how hard they have to work. And truly, because this is new credit for them and their first loan, they are now realizing, oh, when I pay this interest rate, my $200 doesn't go all the way to my loan. So even though it's been shared with them, it's very different once they experience it. And that takes a lot of work. And for one of my daughters right now, she just received her first credit card. She just got her first car loan. And I was showing her where she can go look. This was the first month that she had her first payment on both of those. And I said, next month, a nice feature that we have at our credit union is you can check to see what your credit score is on the first day of each month. And I told her, when April 1st rolls around, let's go see what your credit score is and watch that as you go the next 6 months. See how that works. And then what's really another great thing for her is she does have a higher interest rate, but how I explained it to her was that you have a higher interest rate because you've never shown that you have made payments. What is the risk? So what's really great is after she shows some payments, that's something she can modify. But again, this really comes a lot on if someone was able to get into her account and mess up her credit, it would cause her a lot more of a nightmare. All right, let's go to the next slide. How does insurance protect us financially? This is one of my favorite topics. Calculating possible loss. Do I have collision coverage on my car? Worst case, it's the value of the car. Do I have health insurance? Worst case, can't determine amount. So collision coverage, this is a really great one. This would be if you have an automobile. We have a 2000 Volkswagen Beetle. So this is a really great example. And our Volkswagen Beetle is a great family car, but we don't have a loan on it. So one of the choices that I had was, do I have collision coverage or not? And I had to look at the value of the car, so that if we had an accident, they may give me $3,000 on that value. And if I have to pay an extra $100 a month for that collision coverage, when you look at it, it really didn't see like it would pan out. So for our family, we just don't have that on that one car. Any car that you have a loan with, you have to have collision coverage. That's only an option if you have a car that is free and clear. Health insurance. This is just great. Your worst case scenario is you can't determine the amount. Health insurance is really important because we don't control our health. We don't control anything that comes up when we get these diagnoses. All right, let's go to the next slide. Weighing the risk. This is what insurance provides you. Peace of mind, and you pay a premium. You pay a certain amount, either monthly, annually, or for me, I pay my car insurance every 6 months. So that is my premium, what I pay, and it gives me a great peace of mind. Here's the risk. Your acceptance that if you don't have insurance, how that's going to affect your future life and affect you financially. Likelihood of loss. If you don't have insurance, there's going to be a lot of money. And that's really what insurance is really great. Most of us don't have the amount of money that we need in case something traumatic happened. Maximum exposure. So here's just a really good example. In Oregon, in our Portland metro area, last summer, it seemed that there was a lot of activity downtown. There was a lot of buildings that were in a lot of trouble, windows being broken. Then the next thing you know, we had fires. There are some cities that we have in Oregon that have been destroyed. These small cities that have just been absolutely destroyed. And there was no warning of this. If someone doesn't have insurance on their home and their home burns up, it costs a lot of money to rebuild. More than likely, they aren't able to rebuild. More than likely, they would have to take another loan out. So that's really where the peace of mind and paying that premium comes in to benefit all of us. Common types of insurance: auto, health, homeowners, life insurance, disability, and renters. Okay, so this is how insurance works. So there's risk pooling, your insurance policy, a premium, and then the liability. So let's go back to the risk pooling. That's when you're pooling money together in case of loss. So that's why we all pay auto insurance. That's why we all pay for health insurance. It's because the losses are so large that if we all pay into this pooling, and then if something happens to us, at some point, there's a very high likelihood that one of us is at some point going to be in some type of car accident. So that's really why we all pay for insurance, because each accident costs so much money. So here's where we're pulling our money in. We're all paying these premiums. And then that premium is showing us what we get in our insurance policy. This is the contract. It's the contract between you and the insurance company. So it's really important to make sure that you look at these policies. My needs are very different for what I needed insurance in my 20s compared to where I'm at in my life right now. When I didn't have children, my needs were very different than my needs in my insurance right now. So again, that's the contract. Make sure that you look at your contract. Here's a really great example. I brought up the homes. There was many homes that burnt down, unfortunately, last summer. And with these insurance policies and in these contracts, some people, because their home was burned down, in their insurance policy, they may have paid so that if this ever happened to them, that they had insurance in place so they could stay at, for example, a Marriott Courtyard. they would be able to, the insurance would pay for them for the next 6 months to 12 months to stay somewhere to live for them and their family. And that is something in your homeowner's insurance or maybe your renter's insurance that you specifically have to look at and see if that is of value for you. Premium, the amount you pay for insurance. So this is the amount that you pay. And again, some of us pay our insurance monthly, every 6 months, or maybe annually. For me, owning a home, I pay my homeowner's insurance annually. I pay my auto insurance every 6 months. And when I was in my 20s, I paid my auto insurance every month. I just noticed that auto insurance has changed a lot, so that if you pay it monthly, if you read that fine print, you may have an extra $5 to $7 a month. So that's why I pay mine every 6 months, so I don't get that extra $5 or $7 for paying it monthly. Then here's your liability. That's the coverage to protect others for damage you cause them. None of us get in our car one day and start driving to work and plan on rear-ending another individual, but it does happen at times. I was 16 years old, first 6 months, and I was at a stop sign. I remember I was going out to get my food handler's card, and I was at a stop sign. This was over by Lloyd Center, right there on Weidler. And I looked, it was one way, and I looked, but I'm pretty sure that I went ahead and started talking to my friends, and then I proceeded to go, and I pulled right in front of a car. Again, you don't ever forget that, because that was my parents' car, and it was just frightening that I damaged someone else's automobile and I pulled right in front of them. So that's what that liability is for. I hope that none of you have had that experience, but I have. All right, auto insurance. Drivers are legally required to have it. Here's your general liability. General liability covers bodily injury per person, bodily injury per accident, and property damage. So here's a really good example. Let's just say I'm 16. It's lunchtime. I'm going to leave my high school with 3 of my friends, and we are going to drive to McDonald's at lunchtime. So there's 4 of us in the automobile. We're driving to McDonald's, and it could be as simple, again, that my friends are in the car with me, and I could be talking to them, and the light was yellow, and I went through it, it turned red, and someone else light was green. If I cause that accident and I have 3 other people in the automobile with me, my general liability is to cover for other individuals as well as per accident. And that's really important to look into your auto insurance, because sometimes it might be only $25,000, sometimes it's $50,000, and sometimes those costs can come up more than those amounts. Property damage could be that if I did that and it was an intersection and my car ended up driving through the McDonald's window. Just a story, my dad used to work at a grocery store, and they had windows in the front of this. And there was at least 3 times I remember that people would be parked, and when they would leave after loading up their groceries, instead of putting their car in reverse, they accidentally put it in drive, and they drove right through the front of the store. Thank goodness there was never any customers or any employees hurt, but the windows had to be replaced, you know, shattered glass everywhere. But that would be where the property damage comes in. Auto policy breakdown. So here's required by law: general liability, uninsured motorist. Required and optional: collision, comprehensive, and personal injury protection. So this is where the collision, this could be optional when you have a car that is free and clear, it's an older car, and you really have to kind of look at it to say, all right, should I pay the insurance on it? It's only valued at this amount. Here's optional: underinsured motorist. This is a big one. If you look at the required by law, uninsured motorist, here's optional: underinsured motorist. So the reason that you're going to see this in 2 columns is because there's a high percentage of accidents that happened with people that have no insurance. And again, when you pay your own insurance policy, as well as you pay for a car, that's usually why we work our jobs. 9 to 5 is to make our payments on these things that we have. It can cost a lot of money. Gap insurance, this is a really, when you go buy a new auto, it can be a new, brand new, used new, but gap insurance, this is really a great insurance. And this is something when you're purchasing a car, it's an option. Rental car, road assistance. So on the optional, I know for me in my policy, I have looked and broke down the amounts. So I get AAA. I don't include in my car insurance, my auto insurance, I don't include the roadside assistance. For each car, I think it was about $18. We have 3 cars, my daughters and myself. And on the roadside assistance, it came out to about $18 a month. It was almost $6. And I used it one time and it took them forever to come help me. And I just love AAA. I think I pay about $125 for AAA a year, and it just works out great. If you're with one of your friends and they lock their car or they left their key in the car, AAA will come out and help you. So there's just my little fun tip for you today. All right, let's go to the next one. Why health insurance might be required by law in your state, high medical bills, prevention over treatment. We're really lucky when we have great health. And when your health, when you have any issues, it costs a lot of money to stay healthy. So health insurance is very important. I think that's why there's been a lot of revisions in the health insurance field, especially over the last 10 years. If you've ever had any high medical bills, it's very hard to recover from this if you don't have insurance. Life insurance, need it or not? This is a great one. So need it? Life insurance is great if you have children, married and rely on a spouse's income, if you're a business owner, if your total estate is at a really high value. You probably don't need life insurance if you have no children. This one's an interesting one. You don't necessarily have to have life insurance if you're married, and if you don't rely on a spouse's income, if you're married and unemployed, if you're retired. Where life insurance can be really handy is if you have children. I love them married and rely on a spouse's income. So some dual families, there is one person that works full-time and one that does not work at a job. They work within the home, typically if there's children involved. And this would be something where, again, if one person's getting up in the morning and they're on their way to work and something happens and they're not able to provide the income because this accident was fatal, this is where life insurance would be really valued. There could be a life insurance policy that there is in place to make sure that whatever's owed on the home is paid off, and or any other autos maybe. So that's really where life insurance, it just depends on where you're at in your life, but these are really good reasons why you might need it and probably not. All right, disability coverage. You are more likely to file a claim with disability insurance while you are working than to file a life insurance claim. Well, that makes sense. All it takes is walking out to our car and we could trip over a rock and, fall incorrectly and have back issues for the rest of our lives. We all have very different jobs. I have a job where I walk around a lot, I sit a lot. If I had a job where I was working in construction, I wish I was that talented and gifted, but if I was working in construction, it would be a whole different ballpark. I'd have to make sure that my shoes and my work boots were kind that if a heavy piece of lumber or steel fell on it, that my shoes would help protect. That's a really good example. There's a lot higher risk when you're working on as a construction worker, that there might be some injuries that could prevent your future work life. So that's why disability is really important. Now what? Here's really great. Let's analyze your insurance inventory sheet, auto insurance review, health insurance review. So this is what's really great. When it says insurance inventory sheet, what do you have right now? Here's just two: auto insurance. So double check on your auto insurance. Make sure that you have sufficient. Are you paying too much? Are you not paying enough? On your health insurance, make sure that your policy, what's really nice for me and that I really appreciate about it, my employer, is that every year we go through and we redo our medical benefits. And thank goodness for human resource. They do such a great job really giving us great instructions, letting us know if there's been any changes, because it takes a lot of time. I know for me, my health insurance reviews, they change annually dependent upon, my age, my daughter's ages. And then the insurance inventory sheet is really important because you're going to see that there's only auto insurance and health insurance. If you own a home, you may want to look at your homeowner's insurance. If you're renting and you don't have renter's insurance, I hope that when you get done with this class, this is something that you invest in yourself for. Now what? Let's plan home inventory, future insurance needs, health insurance comparison. Home inventory, if you have a home and you're paying home insurance, take your phone and take your video and start videotaping what you have in your home. The type of, if you're someone, we live in this great area of Portland where you don't necessarily have to drive your automobile. We have all these great bike paths. And I know there's so many people that they do ride their bikes. And there's so many people that have bikes that are worth more than one of my cars. You would want to take inventory, make sure that you have a picture of that bike or you have a videotape, because if something happens, especially if, for instance, there's fires that take over and your home burns down and you have to replace these items, that video is going to help you know, what did you have? What was the brand? How long did you have it? Was it leather? You're going to be able to show an insurance company, I had really nice granite countertops, or, these were the kind of shoes that I had. So it's really important to do that inventory. Now what? Adjust. Develop a plan to review, implement, set reminders to review, make adjustments if necessary. Again, annually, this is really important. Or if you pay your car insurance monthly, what a great time to go look and review your auto policy. Develop a plan. If you currently don't have renter's insurance, again, this is really important. Why don't you have renter's insurance? For that premium that would give you peace of mind and the benefits, think about adding this into your plan of action. Make adjustments when necessary. That's really important. All right, well, we are at the end. So I would love if anyone has any questions for me. Any comments?
Thank you, Lori, for the presentation. As always, very informative. One question is there a good place maybe on the United's website or with Financial Beginnings of like reputable insurance companies? I know sometimes you'll like put in a thing for auto insurance and then all of a sudden you're getting 500 calls a day because they farmed out your information. It can be overwhelming, but is there a good place to find good places?
Well, that's a great question. And I would answer that based off of my own personal experience. We do partner. I know that we partner. I know that financial institutions often will partner with a reputable, for instance, we have Liberty Mutual Insurance. We partner with them. But there are other wonderful insurance companies. And I think that would be something where you would really want to go look at a consumer report. only because I'm not a professional in the insurance companies, but I think the best thing to do is look at a consumer report to see what different people are saying and how these different insurance companies are being rated. For instance, just like we talked about in our presentation, the inventory and looking at your action plan every year is really valuable because each insurance company changes each year. If you belong to State Farm or Allstate or Progressive or Liberty Mutual, every year your premiums can adjust, and that is very common. And every year those premiums can adjust being based off of things that aren't even happening in our area. Again, that's where that pooling comes in. So if we've had a lot of different weather changes in the United States, you will see that different insurance companies will change their rates annually, their policies. So I would highly suggest looking under consumer reports. And then, calling. I know for me, what's really important when I have insurance is I'm a big relationship person. I want to know that if I have something go on with my homeowner's insurance, for instance, if my home had burned down, or if a tree fell through it and I had to be displaced with my children and my animals, I'm emotionally probably going to be a little bit of a wreck. So I want to make sure I have a relationship with someone that's being empathetic to my needs and working with me. So that's kind of something that's important for me.
That makes a ton of sense. Next question is, a lot of insurance companies offer bundling. So like you can get your homeowners or your renters with your automobile with like all these different things, which seems awesome because you save money. Are there any downsides to that or any things to look for in a bundling type scenario?
Oh, I think that's a great question. So thank you for that question. So in the form of bundling, I'm really actually glad this one came up. Bundling typically will help you save some money so that your cost is more reasonable or less expensive. That's really where you want to be checking annually and reviewing your policies with the bundling, just to make sure that you're getting the best benefit. I'll give you a really great life experience that I had. I mentioned that I have 2 daughters. My daughters were on their way to school and they rear-ended someone. Thank goodness everyone was safe, but they rear-ended, the car was totaled. So that really impacted my auto, not really bad impacted, but because I'd been with that insurance company for so long, it didn't impact my auto insurance too much, but it did change my policy. And I actually had a different company for my homeowners and my auto at that time because it was cheaper. But after that accident, I could not bundle. I couldn't find a great way to bundle. I had to wait until that accident was about 4 years old, just because the premiums were so different. So again, that's really where you have to review. It used to not be this way, but if you pay attention to the last 10 years, or I'll just share with you, if you've been lucky enough to not have to pay attention, the weather has changed. There's been more, Mother Nature has come into place where homes are destroyed, whether it's flooding, hurricanes, tornadoes, fires, and those, whenever there's destruction and people have to file insurance claims and insurance companies have to pay out, insurance premiums raise. And that's where the pooling comes into play. So again, that's really why we wanted to talk about to protect yourself. Make sure that you're reviewing these annually.